All right, thank you, Bridget. Yeah, so welcome this morning to the NEMSIS V3 implementation call on June 11th of 2018. We have a fairly short agenda today just because of the holiday and the amount of work we were able to accomplish and the work that we were able to accomplish reaching out to you. But we have a number of important items, so let's go ahead and dig in if we could. We're still getting a little bit of feedback from someone. If you check and make sure that your phone is muted, that would be really, really helpful for us. All right, so let's begin by item 1. We are really promoting the last call for all 2017 EMS data from all of the states who have moved to version 3. We are in the process of completing that data collection, cleaning that, aggregating that data, and providing out a public release research data set that we do on an annual basis. We extended the deadline until July 15th, so there's just a couple of days left. So if Lisa, could you run the current numbers from each of the states that we have, and then can you provide that to me, and we'll maybe just scoot this item down a little bit down in the agenda, and maybe we can actually show what we have for states. Could we do that?
Yes, Clay, I just sent it to you about 10 minutes ago.
Oh, okay, let me see. Oh, yeah, okay, I've got it. Okay, great. Thank you. So here I'll just go ahead and show you the numbers we have. Remember, these are for 2017. These are activations that occurred within that year. And this is the current composition of the warehouse we have for 2017 for all states that have moved to version 3 and are submitting us data. So I will just kind of move slowly down through this list, and if you see your state, if you are a vendor that's aggregating data for a state or a state data manager and you feel like perhaps the number of records we have for you seems low, we would love to hear from you in just the next couple of days to see if we can get this data collection completed. So we know that a couple of states are continuing to work on sending us data. Utah and Oklahoma, for example, are working really hard to clean up some additional data collection. So we're hoping perhaps to reach 8 million EMS activations for 2017 on the new V3 platform. Richard Hale asked if I could send these counts out. Yeah, we'll see if we can prepare something that's a little more kind of easy to read, and we'll provide those out so folks can take a look at those. Okay, great. Any questions about us closing the 2017 data collection? All right, great. All right, item number 2. On our call 2 calls ago, we had a really great discussion about the agenda, putting together the agenda for the NEMSIS V3 meeting that's going to be held August 20th and 21st, so coming right up in about a month. And we have made some changes to that agenda, and we will publish that soon, but wanted to just run it by people so that we could again talk about it. There were a number of items that people mentioned on this call that they'd like to see discussed at that meeting, so we've modified the current draft that's on the website. I just want to run down through a couple of quick issues with you here. So you may recall we mentioned that we have kind of organized a social on Sunday night when you arrive up at the Silver Baron Lodge in Park City. We're going to have a marshmallow roast out on the patio. They have some really nice fire pits there, and they'll provide the marshmallows and the sticks, and so that will be a great time for us to just meet together on that evening after you arrive. Then what we have done, because there were a number of important topics that people felt like should be discussed, we have doubled the number of breakout sessions. So on day 1 basically will be breakout sessions. After Dr. Cromer, who is attending from the office of EMS at NHTSA, after his keynote address, there'll be 2 rounds of breakout sessions, and then we will have time for each of the breakout sessions to report out on their findings. So I'll just go down quickly through the topics. There are 8 here, as you can see. So we want to talk about next generation schematron business rules. This is based on the recommendations that came out of the work that Josh Legler just recently completed. We want to talk about devising an approach to minor revisions to NEMSIS now that we have, I think, with NESEMSO, have kind of locked down the idea of a 5-year cycle for major revisions. C, we want to talk about how we can reduce the impact to users on the addition of elements, deprecation of elements, or the addition of values. So how can we help our agencies and our states to be able to not face such steep, difficult issues regarding training and other kind of attributes of kind of keeping a state all in the same standard whenever we make kind of a major
revision. The same stuff over and over again.
We help with that. Ridgely, I think you're off mute. If you could go on mute, that'd be helpful. All right. We also have some late-breaking revision requests. As we have gone through the process this past year of reviewing the standard, there's been a couple of ideas that have surfaced that might be helpful for us to determine if we'd like to include those in 3.5. So there'll be a group in that breakout round 1 session where they'll take a look at those. And then for round 2, we have the more technical pieces that will probably take a little more time, and you'll see more time is allocated to these 4 items. That is developing a common approach to suggested lists. This was mentioned 2 weeks ago that folks would like to see some work done here. Finalizing the revisions to e-disposition 12. There were a couple of items that were left a little bit unresolved, and we've had some other suggestions in regards to polishing this up a little bit, so this group will be working on that. Ratifying the approach to UUIDs. Right now we have 2 approaches on the table. We'll decide on one. And then coming up with a plan, a strategy for us in 2018 and 2019 to clean up the e-outcome section and come up with a process that allows data to flow more easily back into NEMSIS, some patient outcome data. So just a couple of comments about these breakout sessions. So number 1, these have to be very targeted, right? We don't want folks going back to the drawing board and discussing in the limited time they have things that have already been discussed. So we will be developing very specific questions that are related to each of these topics that need to be addressed during this hour and a half by this group and then reported out later in the day. And then we'll look for facilitators, and we'll have a scribe associated with each of the groups, hoping to keep these conversations very targeted. The idea will be not to necessarily resolve these topics, but as we did last year, we use this meeting to set the stage and the environment for us to be able to spend an entire year going into greater detail on regarding the decisions that were made at that meeting. The purpose of these breakouts will be the same, right? So take those questions, come up with a strategy to address them, and even maybe some potential ideas that would kind of act as resolutions. And then we'll spend time on our bi-monthly calls talking about each of those recommendations that come out of these breakout sessions. The idea is that we'll be able to resolve these issues and be able to move forward with the decisions, and so that we do have a candidate release of 3.5.0 in May of 2019, which is the scheduled time to have that done. So I'll stop talking right there and ask if people have any additional questions in regards to these topics. Are these the right topics? And does the process seem appropriate? Does this seem like this will be effective for folks?
Clay, is it just day 1? I'm sorry. Is there a different set of topics for day 2, or is there a day 2?
Yeah, Rich, there is a day 2. Let me just show you that. That hasn't changed much. We're still kind of working on the pieces associated with day 2. We're just going to kind of recap day 1. We're going to be demonstrating the V3 cube, kind of where we are with that process, and also the new NEMSIS performance measure API we've been talking about. We have some time here where we had haven't really solidified the schedule. So we do have some room if people feel like this is just too consolidated, too concentrated on day one.
That's my only comment would be that I think there's going to be at least a few people who would want to be in multiple sessions in that morning group in particular. So I don't know. And we can divide and conquer. I'm just saying that you might have some competing concerns there.
Yeah, that's the tough part of taking this approach, right? If people feel like they have something really valuable to provide in more than one group, then yeah, that ends up being an issue. Very true.
What may help just a few of us would be like those late-breaking revision requests, if those could all be sent out ahead of time, and if we knew the questions each group was going to be given, we could do a better job of making sure we have the right people in each group.
Okay, Rich, I think that's a great idea. Yeah, and we had planned to do that. That's a really good idea. I forgot to mention that. So we'll try to develop the topic questions for each of these groups before we have the meeting, and we'll actually meet on this phone call 2 additional times. So we'll have a chance to review those, I think, a little bit. So we'll try to provide a very kind of a focused approach for each of these groups prior to arriving. Then I was also wondering, we have someone that would still be valuable if they could mute their phone. Bridget, can you tell who that is? Is that Chuck? Yeah, Chuck, could you mute your phone or the computer?
Okay, I've got my headset muted, but
okay.
I'll mute it.
Okay, thanks, Chuck. Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay.
So, so we'll try to provide those topic questions to folks, and so that that's kind of out there, and we can discuss those prior to the meeting. That's a good idea.
Hey, Clay.
Other comment? Yeah.
It's David. So for the CARES stuff, the CARES working group, are we going to be doing a report out at this?
Yeah, that's a great idea. So I've been working with NHTSA really closely in the development of that group, and we have a lot of material to cover. I just received some material from Chip and from Juan to put together with the CARES information that they've prepared. We're going to try to get that group together in the next 2 weeks, and so they can hammer through some of those questions. We can try perhaps to have an opportunity on day 2 to talk about what are some of the current decisions and maybe some of the kind of issues we're still facing with that harmonization on day 2. If we can make some good progress there, I think that would be really incredibly valuable to include.
Well, and that would be us getting our stuff done so that we could send it out to the group before we ever get it to, before we ever get to Park City. So. Right,
and also CARES wants to have an opportunity to respond to what we're doing, which makes perfect sense. So we're going to kind of add Monica from CARES to the working group, and so I think there's going to be a lot of back and forth work happening over this month. And so if we can come out with something that would be kind of valuable to share, we'll do that for sure.
All right, cool. Thanks.
Yep.
Hey, Clay, this is Ridgely. Sorry to interrupt. Is the join me, is there a trick to making it work today? It won't let me enter my name. Anybody else have problems?
I'm having the same issue.
Yeah, I'm having the same problem.
Yeah, this is Sharon in Nebraska. I had the same problem, so I just did the phone.
You can't click on the link.
Did you update when you click on the Join Me meeting? Did it come up with where you enter your name, or did it ask you to enter a meeting code?
It depended on which browser. I tried both. One of them went one way, one with the other, but neither would let me enter my name.
Correct.
Okay. You highlight the URL that's in the email invite and paste it in, it'll work. The hyperlink that's clickable is wrong.
Well, I went in and did it, and I put in the correct meeting code because it's got the wrong code on the link, and it still won't let me enter it. And I like she said, I've tried both browsers.
Oh, that's interesting. Does it say waiting to be allowed in?
It says meeting in progress, introduce yourself, enter your name, and it won't let you put your name in.
Oh, hey, Bridget, Elisa, can you open up the meeting number 1? So unlock the meeting, and then would you post the link in the chat again, and let's just see if either of those two approaches will help folks. Okay, so
well,
now the meeting is.
We can't get to the chat.
I'll send an email out to the list.
Listserv.
So you're trying to enter into 290.
Did y'all copy and paste the actual code in, or did you type the code?
Okay, my the agenda just came up now when she evidently opened the meeting, so I didn't have to put my name in now. So I'm able to see the screen now.
Great.
Okay, so
it's between
yeah,
now.
something's now working.
It's now working, originally, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe there was just something associated with the meeting being locked. Great, well, thanks you for bringing that up, Ridgely. A lot of folks were having trouble, so that's great. Okay. All right, thank you. So hopefully everybody can see the agenda now for the meeting. Any other comments about this format, this process, the topics to be covered? I think what we've mentioned, we're going to come up with the very focused questions associated with these topics. If we can cover CARES, we will. I'm also thinking that we'll try to maybe assign groups after you have a chance to take a look at the focused questions associated with each of these topics. Perhaps we'll try to at least have a core group assigned to each of these topics before we get there. Any other comments about the topics or the format? Okay, great. Thank you for your opinions, and that really helps us to ensure that we're going to have a valuable meeting. All right, agenda item number 3. We had talked about the development of a state naloxone administration dashboard, one that was similar to the public one, and we have made some progress there. And I wanted to show you what we've done so far, and then to talk a little bit about future work. So before I show you that, I'll just mention quickly that there were 3 really good suggestions that were shared 2 weeks ago about what could be added to the national dashboard that could then could be on the state dashboard that would be helpful for states. One was this idea of including counterexamples, maybe similar scenarios to those who received naloxone, but then looking at that same scenario and those that did not receive naloxone. We've kind of played with this a little bit. It really has not worked out to be very sensitive and specific in the process, so I'm not sure whether we'll be able to pull that off. We'll continue to look and see if there's some value there. There was a request to indicate who offered naloxone prior to EMS arrival. As you'll remember, and I'll show you in a moment, we indicate whether or not a naloxone was administered prior to EMS arrival, but we don't indicate who offered it. And so we're looking into this. Laurel had talked a little bit about the data being a little bit dirty in that regard, so we're still trying to clean that up a little bit. And then there was also a request of adding the response to the medication. So once naloxone is given, could we add whether the patient got better, was the same or worse? That is also really doable. It's kind of a difficult thing to show in Tableau in that it's a many-to-one kind of element, right? So you can give naloxone, the patient doesn't get better. You can give naloxone again, and the patient does get better. But then the load of opioid was so high that, again, they start to deteriorate, so naloxone's given again. How to actually show that in a way that's valuable. We're still working on that, but we've had a call to provide the state naloxone dashboard quickly. Several states kind of indicated that they would find real value in this being available now. So we're going to release this version this week with the idea that we will continue to try to work on those 3 ideas, and then we'll update this if we can make those work. So I just wanted to just briefly show you what this looks like now. So here's the state naloxone dashboard. It looks a lot like the the public dashboard, we do that on purpose. And so if you have stakeholders who within your state or within EMS agencies see the national, and then they want to look at something specific to a state, they of course will not be able to see that. These will be password protected and used by the state, but at least there would be some real commonality in your discussions, because they'll see something very similar in regards to the dashboard attributes. And so it looks a lot the same, the number of activations, the number of agencies who gave naloxone. One piece kind of up on top here I just wanted to mention is we thought that what we could add for the state level dashboard that would be valuable are these drop downs, and so that you can choose a specific EMS agency within your state, and you can choose a specific time period in which you want to look at those naloxone administrations. Are there any other drop downs that the states or vendors see might be valuable for states to add here that would allow you to kind of stratify the entire dashboard? Okay, we'll keep that thought in mind as we work. Yeah, yeah.
Did you have the way to stratify by total dosing?
By total dosing, that's an interesting idea. We provide total dosing down here.
Just because if you've got a cluster of patients that, so their protocols say they can only give 0.4 milligrams at a time, but the total dose that they gave in this one neighborhood is, 8 milligrams or something, being able to stratify and filter out your maps and stuff by that, you'd be able to see clusters.
Oh, okay. So I'm just trying to think this through in my mind. So we would sum the total milligrams for an event, and then provide that in some kind of a stratification, and you could choose a total dose. Okay.
Or have a slider, where you could slide the dose, the total dose.
Okay. Okay, good. Okay, we'll look into that. All right. Okay, that's a good idea. Any other stratifications people can think of that would be valuable here? Okay, keep that in mind as we work down. If something else comes to your mind, feel free to share it. Okay, so patient demographics look a lot like the other, the public version. The date and time, you're again able to look by month and year and by time of day. Two things that we have added that are not on the public dashboard that we talked about 2 weeks ago is these kind of a moving average, and so you have a daily administration frequency. You have a moving 2-week average that allows you to look at what may be a more kind of true increase. And then we also provide a way for you to look at the rate of naloxone administration by either incident zip code or by county. And so those will be specific to the state dashboard. Of course, you'll just see your state when that's available. And then, of course, these items are also present on the public dashboard. What were the top complaints, the top impressions, how many folks got 1 dose, 2 doses, 3 doses, or 4 doses. We cap it at 5 doses in the data set. I didn't know whether that was problematic or not, but we, like in all large data sets, we have situations where, I don't know, the GUI went crazy or someone was pressing a button with her elbow while caring for a patient, and we have patients, of course, that have 50 administrations of naloxone and things like that. So we want to truncate off that stuff that's clearly just scree, just error. So we allow up to 4 in the data set. So that's the way it looks right now. We'd like to go ahead and release this just because states have indicated a real need for this. So we're going to release this week, and we'll announce that on the listserv so the states know it's available. And then we'll work on these other tasks that we talked about from 2 weeks ago, the comment today, I think, about stratifying by total dose. We'll look into that. Any other ideas of things that could be added to this dashboard that would be helpful? Okay, and I'll just remind you, on this dashboard, you'll be able to look at the V2 trend for your state, what was a rate of naloxone administration over these years. And then we also talked about and demonstrated that on the public dashboard we have this way to look at county level census data by rate of naloxone, right? So that will be present for your state as well, and you'll have all these different measures that are from either healthy counties or from U.S. Census to be able to look at whether they correlate with high or low rates of naloxone administration. All right, any other comments in regards to the state naloxone administration dashboard? Okay, good. Well, we'll get that out this week. All right, wanted to just, so item number 4, wanted to just prime people for some things that we're finishing up this month. As folks will remember, kind of associated with the inappropriate data release here at NEMSIS, one of our promises to kind of ameliorate the possibility of that happening again was that we were going to split the V2 cube that's now closed, but we want that legacy data to be available. We're splitting that into 2 different instances of that cube, one that's available to the public, where the state folder is not available, so there's just no way that we can ever have that problem happen again. The data is just not present there. And then there'll be a V2 cube that is specific to states where they have to use their password to get into that cube, and that state folder will be present. So that will really help us to ameliorate the problem of having that data inappropriately shared. So that is scheduled to be completed this month, and so that will clearly meet our deadline as shared with all of your state leaders in regards to a part of our plan to reconcile that issue. Just want to let you know that that's on track. All right, and then we have been talking a lot about this EMS Performance API for quite a while. So we're getting very close to having that ready to be released, and it will occur this month. And I'm gonna go just real quickly. I'm sorry I didn't have this completely available, but I did just want to maybe show a couple of slides to remind people what this product is and how it will help us. So let me see if I can get this just to show real quick. Okay, good. So the NEMSIS Performance API, as you may recall, we're setting up basically a process where an EMS software can call in to this NEMSIS API to receive data that will allow them in their native reporting system to provide benchmark data for the agencies using that software. So say, for example, we have a performance measure, the rate at which aspirin is offered to chest pain patients. Well, the way that this would work is that an EMS agency's software would look into this API, look for data from similar types of agencies in their home state and across the nation, excuse me, and then would provide the rate at which, for example, aspirin is offered to chest pain patients in that agency's data, in that agency's state data, and across the nation for similar types of agencies. And so they'll be able to kind of benchmark their own performance compared to other similar agencies. How does the API identify similar types of agencies in the state and nation? The query parameters will look like this, and so these are all NEMSIS elements except for urbanicity. We will provide that to the system, but when an agency fills out these variables, it identifies a particular type of agency. This API will use these elements to query data from other agencies that have the same constellation of answers across these elements, and then will provide those as the data representing similar agencies within a state and within the nation. The API that will be rolled out will be based on 3 EMS compass measures that were developed that we feel like are pretty solid. Of course, there's others of those compass measures that I don't think were ever finally kind of finalized, and there's a new group that's actually meeting for the first time this week with the American College of Emergency Physicians, I think, is the one leading that group, but they're going to try to take over this work from EMS Compass. But this API will have these 3 measures to begin with, but really the value of this system is that we've kind of built the chassis, we've built the engine, and so as other performance measures are decided upon, then we can just drop those into the system and make those available to the local EMS products. So does that make sense? Do people kind of understand the underlying purpose of the API? Okay, we talked about this a fair amount. Yeah.
I have a question on the compass stuff. Are the values that are going to be pertinent to that, are they all national elements?
Yes.
Nationally required elements?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, true. Yeah, there were a number of IVMS compass measures that utilized data that's not national. You're right about that, originally, and even some that couldn't be done unless there were changes made to the standard. We chose 3 measures that are pretty solid and use national elements. Okay. Any other questions regarding the API? We will. That will be rolled out this at the end of this month. The very end of this month is when we're scheduled to have that done. So we'll demonstrate that at the V3 implementation meeting up in Deer Valley. We'll also show the 2 V2 cubes, and then we'll also provide an update on the V3 cube. The backbone, the complete backside of the V3 cube will be done this month as well. We will begin working on the interface that people will use to actually query that data beginning in August, and we'll provide you with updates, and we'll also provide an update at the V3 implementation meeting in regards to however far we get by the 20th of August. Remember, one of the real values of the V3 Cube is it's going to include that census data and Healthy County data that you saw in the Naloxone Dashboard. So now as a state or the public or a vendor, you'll not only be able to look at the data related to what's in NEMSIS, but you will also be able to correlate that with some kind of community level variables that may be very helpful to you. Okay, any other comments regarding item 4? Okay, item 5, just to provide you with an update regarding our search for a new state support lead here at the NEMSIS TAC. We have received, I would guess we probably have 30 to 40 applications. We have held, I think, 6 kind of interviews, and we're continuing to work through that process. We have a couple of more interviews that are set up for this week and early next, and we're hoping to be able to wrap that up quickly. We will for sure leave the ability to apply for that position. That will remain open for the foreseeable future. So if you have folks that you have been thinking about that might be interested in this position, I've provided the link here. We sent the link out to the DMC and also on the Google listserv. We'd love to receive an application for those who you think might be interested in the position. Okay, great. And then just, comment? I'm sorry. Okay. All right, just the last item we have on the agenda before we open it up for open discussion. I just want to remind you we would love to have you go to the NEMSIS website and register for the NEMSIS V3 implementation meeting. When we look over those who are currently set to come, lots of state data managers will be present at this meeting. We're incredibly excited about that. As usual, most of the vendors are waiting to the last moment to register. It would be incredibly helpful if you could register this week, just because it helps us to ensure that we have enough food and that we have enough passes for our evening activity on August 20th, where we're going over to the Park City Mountain. And related to that, I will just mention that real quickly too, that your registration fee includes a pass that allows you to participate in a number of really great activities that happen on the Park City Mountain, including the mountain coaster and the mountain slide. We do not provide passes for families. So if you plan on having a significant other or family come with you to the meeting, if you would let Bridget know that, we will ensure that you have the necessary family passes at the discounted rate that's provided for this meeting. So that would save you some money if you choose to bring someone with you. So please join us. We would love to have you. It's going to be a great meeting. We have a lot to cover, and it will really set the stage for what we do to ensure that we have a great candidate release of 3.5 by May of 2019. Okay, I will end there and ask if there are other items that we would like to openly discuss on the call today. Okay, all right. Well, as I mentioned, we have 2 more calls before we meet together in person in Park City. We will try to have lots of information related to the groups to review on those 2 calls. And so even folks who can't participate will be able to have a voice in what questions are asked and how they are, how we focus down on those topics during our meeting together for 2 days in Deer Valley. All right, if there are no more comments, thank you very much for joining us. Did someone have a comment? Okay. All right, I'm assuming that was just background noise. So thanks for joining us, and we will again meet together on the call on July 25th. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Claire.
Thank you.
Thanks, Claire.